Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into something pretty fascinating. We're looking at where high finance, meets high philosophy, exploring a source that argues maybe the best tool for building wealth isn't like a spreadsheet, but an emotional state. It's this really provocative link between, well, how you feel and your bank account.
That's right. And the source we're digging into today, it kind of flips the usual script on how you get wealthy. It comes from this excerpt called Gratitude, the Wealth Frequency. And the core idea is, well, it's deceptively simple, really. It challenges that whole notion that wealth only comes from, grinding it out,
Yep.
external effort.
So our mission today is to unpack that specific idea. We're zeroing in on one really potent little statement from this source, one that makes you question, well, pretty much everything we're taught about getting rich. How does an emotion actually lead to, measurable financial results? That's the puzzle.
Exactly. And the statement that anchors this whole deep dive, the thesis, if you like, is this. Gratitude is the frequency of money. Tune in, stay connected, and watch your wealth grow. That single sentence lays out the whole thing, the concept, the action, and the promised outcome.
Okay, frequency. Let's unpack that word because it's very specific, isn't it? The source doesn't just say gratitude's a good attitude to have. It calls it a frequency. Why that particular word? It makes it sound less like self-help and more like, I don't know, physics, a universal law.
Well, that's the crucial pivot, isn't it? Using the word frequency. See, if you talk about a positive attitude, that's subjective. It's a state of mind.
Right.
But frequency, that implies something more. An active energy, a vibration. It suggests there's a mechanism at work, maybe even transmission. If they just said, be grateful and you'll probably do better, well, that sounds like correlation. But calling it a frequency suggests causation, like they're on the same wavelength.
So the idea is that wealth itself has a kind of energetic signature, and gratitude is the key that sort of matches it. It's about alignment.
Precisely. The source is basically saying that most people are, without realizing it, broadcasting on a different frequency. Maybe a frequency of lack, or just, chaos. All that stress about bills, fear of debt, the feeling there's never enough. That signal is energetically, incompatible with building real wealth. Gratitude, on the other hand, is presented as the exact signal you need, a stable wave to attract abundance. So you shift from chasing money to becoming a kind of magnet for it.
Okay, I get the metaphor. But, and this is important, how does the source stop this from just being, magical thinking? Like if I'm sitting on my couch feeling super grateful, how does that internal frequency actually change my decisions, my budgeting, my investments, how I perform at work?
That's a really critical question. And the source does try to bridge that gap. It connects the internal state to actual observable behaviors. When you're operating from this gratitude frequency, the idea is you inherently cut down on the mental noise and chaos. And psychologically, that translates into some tangible benefits. First, clarity of opportunity. When you're stuck in a scarcity mindset, you're laser focused on what you don't have, right? It creates tunnel vision. Gratitude shifts your focus to what you do have, your resources, possibilities. So you become, theoretically, more attuned to spotting new financial opportunities you might have missed otherwise because fear was blinding you.
That makes intuitive sense. Stress and fear definitely lead to more impulsive, maybe reactive financial choices. If you feel more grounded, more sufficient, your decision-making would likely be calmer, more strategic.
Exactly. And second, this frequency is linked to enhanced resilience and confidence. If you're maintaining gratitude, a setback, say, a deal falls through, or you get an unexpected bill, it's framed differently. It's not a disaster confirming your worst fears about scarcity. It's seen as a temporary hurdle. And that confidence, it supposedly leads to better negotiation, more persistence when things get tough financially. The internal stability creates a better foundation for external action. So the gratitude frequency isn't saying you don't need to put in effort. It's saying it makes the effort you do put in much more effective, more targeted.
Okay, so that's the psychological bridge. The internal state shapes the quality of your external actions. So for you, the listener, it's not just about sending out some vague wish. It's creating the internal conditions for clear, confident, resilient action. Makes sense. All right, let's shift from the concept, the what, to the how, the action steps. Because alignment is great, but how do you achieve it? The source gives us those two commands, tune in and stay connected. Let's start with the first one, tune in. What does that actually involve?
Well, tune in definitely suggests it's conscious, it's deliberate, you have to intend to do it. The source makes it clear that this kind of gratitude isn't just feeling thankful after something good happens. It's about proactively engineering that feeling. You have to choose to establish that feeling, even and maybe especially when your circumstances seem to argue against it.
So it's not passive. You're not waiting for a reason to be grateful, you're generating the feeling first. Does the source give hints about how to do this, specific methods for this active tuning?
Yeah, it generally points towards things that redirect your mental energy. Practices maybe like gratitude journaling, or perhaps a daily ritual, like focusing first thing in the morning on 3 things you already have, assets, blessings, whatever, no matter how small they seem. The key emphasis is consistency. Doing it often enough to override that default setting of worry or lack. Tuning in is like literally finding the right station on the radio dial. It takes focus to get the signal clear.
Okay, so that initial tuning, that's the entry point. It requires effort. But now the really tough part, I think, the part that probably separates people who just like the idea from those who actually see results.
Yeah.
Stay connected. Finding the frequency once is one thing, like a nice morning exercise. But holding it, that sounds much more demanding.
Right. And the source suggests this is where most people stumble. If tuning in takes conscious effort, staying connected requires constant maintenance, almost like emotional vigilance. Think about trying to hold a clear radio signal while you're driving through a really bad thunderstorm. All the interference, adversity, the bills piling up, a disappointment, market swings. It's like static trying to pull you off the gratitude frequency and back into lack or fear.
That static analogy is quite powerful. So when the source says stay connected, it's really about managing your internal reaction to stress and failure.
Exactly that. The source is pretty clear. Attracting wealth this way depends on consistency. If you feel grateful and aligned for an hour in the morning, but then spend the next 4 hours worrying about debt, well, you've sent mixed signals, haven't you? So staying connected means that feeling of gratitude needs to become your dominant state, not just a brief escape. It's this ongoing choice to keep returning to that alignment, even when life throws static at you.
That feels like the biggest challenge for you, the listener. When a big payment is due or a project you poured everything into just collapses, the natural human response is fear, maybe anger. How does the source suggest overriding that primal instinct to maintain the connection?
It really emphasizes shifting your focus immediately. So instead of dwelling on the loss, the hole in the bucket, so to speak, you deliberately shift focus to what you learned from it, or the resources you still have, or the path to recovery, the fact you still have a bucket. It's not about denying the negative thing happened. It's a strategic redirection of your mental and emotional energy. Sustaining the frequency isn't about never having negative thoughts. It's about quickly, consciously returning your focus to that positive alignment whenever the static starts to interfere. And this need for relentless consistency, this is also why the source links this frequency directly to actual wealth growth. Because arguably, only someone who develops that kind of internal consistency and resilience can really navigate the ups and downs of serious financial activity without getting paralyzed or burning out.
So the very act of staying connected, of maintaining that frequency through difficulty, builds the exact psychological discipline you need for managing wealth effectively.
Yeah.
It's like a feedback loop.
Okay, so we've got the concept, the frequency, we've got the demanding work, tuning in and staying connected. Now let's look at the result, the explicit promise the source makes. Watch your wealth grow.
Yes, the payoff. And it's presented as a direct, observable outcome, a causal sequence.
Yeah.
This really shifts the whole driver of wealth building away from just external effort. The traditional hustle culture, work more hours, force the deal through. It reframes wealth accumulation as something driven primarily from the inside.
So if we put it all together, the kind of playbook this source offers is: Step 1, consciously adopt the gratitude frequency. Step 2, maintain that connection perpetually with discipline, especially when things get tough. Step 3, then, as a result, observe your financial growth. That synthesis really nails the source's most, I'd say, radical idea. Most people think of gratitude as the result of success. I finally made it, so now I'm grateful. This source flips it completely. It argues gratitude has to be the prerequisite, the starting point. You establish the grateful frequency first, and then wealth aligns with it. It follows. The internal state isn't just reflecting your external reality. The argument is that it's causing it.
That distinction, cause versus effect, is huge. And it explains why the source uses that technical-sounding language, frequency. It's positioning this not just as nice advice, but as a predictable, actionable system, almost like a law. So let's wrap this up for you, the listener. What this source material is putting forward is a view of gratitude that's, well, it's not just a warm, fuzzy feeling. It's framed as a deliberate, actionable mechanism, an energetic frequency, if you will, that's essential for attracting and keeping financial wealth. It's really a call for proactive emotional management to get tangible financial results.
And if you actually buy into this framework, then the internal work that conscious effort to tune in and, crucially, maintain the connection that becomes maybe the most strategic financial move you can make. It kind of redefines investing, doesn't it? The primary
Yeah.
investment becomes your own emotional and psychological alignment.
So as you think about this really unique, internally focused approach to wealth, we want to leave you with a final thought, something to chew on maybe, drawing right from that core metaphor. If gratitude truly is the frequency of money, what signal are you actually broadcasting right now, today? And thinking specifically about how hard it is to stay connected when things are stressful. What's one specific, maybe non-negotiable daily shift in focus you could commit to? A shift that would help you genuinely maintain that frequency and stay aligned with the wealth you're aiming for.
Yeah, reflect on that consistency piece. The source suggests the frequency is always available. The real question is, are you willing to put in the work to hold that dial steady day in, day out?
That's all we have time for on this deep dive.
Yeah.
Catch you next time.